All right, WorldNet Daily. We're here. We're on edge. The world is on edge. But we're still coming at you live. My name is Matt Edwards. Welcome to WorldNet Daily Live. It is a pleasure to be with you today on Wednesday, October 9, 2024. We have a very special guest with us. We also have Joe Kovacs back in the studio as well, in his home studio. He's under a hurricane watch actively in Florida. Joe, good to see you there.
Great to be here.
And we're pleased to have Wayne Allen Root coming to us live from Las Vegas. Wayne, welcome to the program. We've got a lot to discuss today. We wanted to we wanted to hear from you because we have an article up at WorldNet Daily on Kamala Harris's getting massively blasted for her tone-deaf remarks in the face of the Hurricane Helene victims. All this, of course, on top of Hurricane Milton, I believe it is, that's headed into Florida. And then you have an article that you just put up yesterday, I believe, talking about how it just kind of feels as though they just want Trump voters to drop dead out there, and asking the question, what would the reaction be if this hurricane landed somewhere else? So, Wayne, welcome to the program. What's your take on the response so far with the administration?
Well, let's start with the fact that I want to brag a little bit. I'm really smart because I live in Las Vegas and we don't have hurricanes. Nothing happens here. There is no weather. It just gets hot in summer. Other than that, there is no weather of any kind. No earthquakes, no hurricanes, no tornadoes. It never rains. So it's just perfect. Nothing can go wrong. Knock on wood. Other than an attack by China against Nellis Air Force Base. So I think I'm probably okay, although that attack by China could be coming. The way this administration runs things, you just don't know. So look, a lot of bad things are happening. It just seems like this administration hates everyone who is white and straight and male and a Trump voter. We're like public enemy number one. We're all domestic terrorists, even though I'm 63 years old and I've never even gotten a speeding ticket. I don't even get parking tickets. All I do is make money and pay taxes and have kids.
How dare you?
Terrible person.
How dare you?
It's the craziest thing. They live in this fantasy world where they make believe that China's good, Iran is good, and the Mexican drug cartel is good, and all white straight males who are Republicans are terrorists. It's the most bizarro thing since the Twilight Zone TV show. They don't even know what they're saying anymore. They've opened the border. They've let every terrorist in the country, real terrorists. They've let murderers in. They let criminals of all stripes, kidnappers, drugs, drug felons. You name the crime, rapists. They're all in the country because Democrats like them better than they like white people. It's the most racist thing I've ever seen in my life. And it's only because, not because they really have anything against someone because they're white. It's because, for the most part, white, straight men vote Republican and like Trump and vote for Trump. And white people in general, it's a landslide for Trump. So they just hate people that vote against them. That's all it comes down to. And I'd love to ask them that Trump is such a dictator. He's such a Hitler. He's such a Nazi. He's going to end democracy. When Trump was in for 4 years, what did he do exactly to Democrats? Did he jail them? Did he stick the IRS on them? All the things that Democrats do to us. Did he leave them to fend for themselves after a natural disaster like a hurricane? No, all the things they're accusing us of, they do every single day. They're the traitors. They're the domestic terrorists. They're the racists. They're the people who have weaponized government like communists always do to come after their political opponents. They're the ones who stole the election, ergo, they stole democracy. So I find the whole thing to be hilarious. It's Saul Alinsky who said, when you look in the mirror, whatever you see, blame the other guy. So they see in themselves all the terrible things they are, and they keep trying to blame Trump and MAGA for those terrible things.
Yeah, it's so true. And Joe, you're in Southern Florida there. You not only do you have to deal with the news of how Kamala's treating the victims in North Carolina, Tennessee, and so forth from the last hurricane, but being prepared for what you're going through, and you're living it right now.
Exactly. I'm in the cone track, right on the southern edge. I'm in Martin County, And for those people who might not know where that is, it's the Atlantic side. It's the county right north of Palm Beach County. And Palm Beach, of course, is where former President Trump lives, down at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, the town of Palm Beach. As a matter of fact, the day that the would-be assassin a few weeks ago or last month, was racing up I-95. It was the Martin County deputies that went right in front of my house here. I was working that day and looking out my window. I was like, where are those Martin County deputies going? And they went and caught the would-be assassin. So I'm here on the southern end of the cone. The storm is supposed to hit tonight. They're saying now between 9, 10, 11, midnight, whenever it comes ashore. The 2 o'clock advisory just came out. I think the winds are somewhere around 130 miles an hour hitting the Gulf Coast, but they still expect it to be a hurricane as it crosses its way through central Florida. So the biggest threat right now, in my humble opinion, besides the typical storm surge that you see, and they're talking about, I think, a 15-foot storm surge on the Gulf Coast of Florida, the biggest problem that we have is that we just had another hurricane go by recently, Hurricane Helene, which not only damaged Florida, but also the Carolinas, as we all know, making national headlines. But the problem with Helene is there's all this debris still at the end of people's driveways and all over neighborhoods that has not been removed. We're talking serious piles of boards and just junk and debris. So when these winds come through, all this debris can be picked up and they become projectiles. So you don't even have to have a major hurricane to cause a lot of damage here, just because that debris is already off of houses and is just sitting through neighborhoods, and it's going to be picked up and become these bullets, these little missiles. So that is going to be a big problem when it comes to shore. And by the way, I hate when the media hype storms, because they usually do, and they blame global warming, whatever. This has nothing to do with that. So I'm not one of these guys who hype storms, but just the fact of all that debris around is going to cause some sort of problem. And we've had tornadoes all throughout, even my county right now. If you look over my shoulder, got the local TV station. I actually ran that TV station for 5 years. It's the ABC affiliate in West Palm Beach. And we've had numerous tornadoes come through Palm Beach and Broward County. So there's a lot of action going on right now.
Now, Wayne, when you talk about earlier, you talk about the victims, there was a tweet that somebody highlighted where we had this article up where Kamala just said, we're giving money to Lebanon, and somebody asked, is that Lebanon, Florida, Lebanon, North Carolina? Where's this Lebanon? What is the disconnect between sending all of this money overseas to all these foreign nations while families at home are getting a paltry $750 to put their lives back together?
Yeah, well, listen, I write about this. I talk about this. I have 3 TV shows I don't know if people know on Real America's Voice TV every night at 10 o'clock Eastern is The Root Reaction. On Real America's Voice TV on weekends is America's Top 10 Countdown with yours truly, Wayne Root, Saturdays at noon. On Frank Speech, used to be Lindell TV. Now it's called frankspeech.com. My show streams every afternoon at 7 p.m. Eastern is Wayne Root, Raw and Unfiltered, and I have a national radio show. And on all of them, I think my main topic for the last year has been that Democrats just hate Americans. This is the great replacement. Now, I've always said the border is the great replacement, and people argue, Democrats with a straight face, the same ones who say that we're bad and we're domestic terrorists, even though we're pro-police, pro-military, and we've never committed a crime in our lives, and we're the most responsible people in the world. We all have families. We all go to church or temple. We're the nicest people in the world. We're ex-military vets. That's the MAGA movement. The nicest salt of the earth people in the world. The same liars who said the vaccines won't kill you. They're safe. They're effective. The same liars who said they won the election. The same liars who say that World War III is not about to start. They want to tell you that we're domestic terrorists, and they also want to tell you they're not the racists. We are, and the border is not the great replacement. There's one of the great lies of all time. The border isn't the great replacement. So you're letting in tens of millions of strangers, foreign invaders, worse than Russia invading Ukraine. We have an invasion on our border of murderers and rapists and criminals, and then some nice people who just want to be on welfare the rest of their lives and bankrupt our country. And some nice women who want to drop a baby. They've never committed a crime, but they want to break into our country, drop a baby, and we're supposed to spend $100,000 on their maternity bills. And don't forget transgenders who want us to spend $150,000. They can have a sex change operation after they break into our country. So this is the great replacement. Millions are coming in to replace the Republican voters, which, by the way, just happen to be white, rural, for the most part, white, rural, male, straight. That's your typical Republican voter. And they want to make them into invisible people that don't matter anymore in America. Our vote won't matter. There is no democracy. There is no republic. There is just a banana republic now. And anyone who disagrees should be censored, should be silenced, should go to jail, should have their assets taken away, should be banned from Twitter or X or Facebook or shadow banned. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So the great replacement has switched from just the border, let millions of people in to replace the American citizens. Now it's also FEMA is the great replacement, because FEMA's saying it's all based on equity. And I've got the executive order number. It's not in front of me, but there's an executive order by Kamala Harris and Joe Biden from like a year ago that they put in very quietly, which says FEMA is now based on equity. And every effort should be made to put people first in line and do everything. If you're gay, if you're black, if you're an illegal alien, if you're a person of color of any kind, if you're transgender, that's the only people FEMA should be helping, and everybody else should drop dead. That is literally an executive order. It's a fact. And that's why they're treating people in North Carolina and South Carolina and Georgia and Florida and Tennessee like dirt, because they're not gay, they're not transgender, they're not black. There's almost 100% white rural Republicans in the South and Appalachia, and they don't like them. And their executive order says that you're not supposed to put them first in line. You're supposed to put them last in line. That's why they're not taking care of anyone. Wait till Florida finds out. The Gulf Coast is mostly Republican conservative. It's mostly white, rural, American macho men who like NFL football and the GOP. So they're not going to take care of you guys. Your life is going to be ruined, and they're going to do nothing for you.
Well,
this is the administration.
Yeah, and this is why we have to say, thank heavens Florida has Governor Ron DeSantis there. I want to show you this clip real quick. This is astounding because of the dynamics between DeSantis in charge of Florida and the federal administration. Let's watch this clip real quick.
The governor of Florida has been cooperative. He said he's gotten all that he needs. I talked to him again yesterday. And I said, no, you're doing a great job. It's all being done well. We thank you for it. And I literally gave my personal phone number to call. So I don't know. There was a rough start in some places, but every governor from Florida to North Carolina has been fully cooperative and supportive and acknowledged what this team is doing. And they're doing an incredible job. But we got a lot more to do.
Now, of course, he was doing that press conference while Kamala was over on The View saying she wouldn't change a thing about Biden's policies and stuff. What do you make of this, Wayne? You got Biden here praising DeSantis, and again, thank God DeSantis is in Florida.
Well, I mean, look, the gift to America, they always say the gift that keeps on giving is herpes, but the gift that keeps on giving in politics is Biden. And he has said numerous times, not only did he just say, as you heard, that DeSantis is doing a good job, and he admitted there was a rough start. That's political speak for we really effed up and let everybody just die. It was a little rough start. But he also has said numerous times, including I believe yesterday or the day before, that Kamala is in charge of policy. There's no difference between her and me. There's no daylight. She's been there every step of the way, and she's been in charge of all kinds of wonderful things that I've done. Kamala is me. And then Kamala says, I wouldn't change a thing when she goes on The View. She's also like herpes, the gift that keeps on giving. She is the worst interview in the history of the world. She is the most incompetent human being in world history. And by the way, each interview she's given since the debate is proof that she either had an earphone in and they were giving her the answers, or they just gave her the questions in advance and she memorized the scripted answers from a team of people that gave her the answers. But either way, every interview she's done proves she couldn't have been good in the debate without all kinds of help, because she really is dumb as a doorknob. She can't do an interview, and she says the worst things every time her mouth opens, which is why they only put her on shows like, Who's My Daddy, the sex podcast, and they put her on Howard Stern yesterday. So I want all of you to think about this for a minute. What if right now a storm had destroyed a black inner city, and another superstorm was about to destroy a mostly minority black state, city, like Milton is, and the president was Donald Trump, a white Republican who they call a racist and a Nazi and KKK, and that Republican Trump was on the Howard Stern show and on a podcast called Who's My Mommy? Can you even imagine? He's not in the FEMA room. He's not in the emergency crisis room. He's in Howard Stern's studio while people are suffering and dying and bodies have not been buried yet. They're lying above ground in North Carolina. And Milton is about to be the worst natural disaster, maybe, if the hysterical media is to be believed. I don't know. They always try and make it like it's the worst. This one, they really do claim, could be the worst hurricane to ever hit the United States. So shouldn't she be in some sort of FEMA room? Shouldn't she be boots on the ground in Florida with mud boots on, ready to fight? Shouldn't she be sitting with Ron DeSantis ready for the worst hurricane ever, instead of interviewing with sex podcasts and Howard Stern? What if Trump did that and black people were suffering?
Yeah.
Sharpton and Jesse Jackson go insane and call him a racist and say he's got to be impeached. He's got to be indicted. He's committing treason against the American people. Black bodies have not been buried yet. This man hates black people. That's what they'd be saying. And it should be said of Kamala right now. I don't know if she hates white people. She hates Republicans. She hates Americans. This administration loves illegals. They love foreign aid, and they hate Americans. Oh, and they love all foreign aid except Israel. It's so bizarre. I don't even know what to say anymore.
Yeah, no, wait, you covered all bases there, and it's hard to argue. And Joe, like I said, you're in Florida, so you're living under Ron DeSantis. What is the stark contrast that you're seeing here between the two administrations?
Oh, it's a night and day contrast. I mean, it is so thrilling to see Ron DeSantis every time he comes on television, especially during a severe weather event like this, a hurricane. He's like Captain America. He lets everyone know what the state agencies are doing. The leadership of him is just paramount. I mean, he's got already some 50,000 electric linemen coming in from as far away as California, because a lot of those other ones have been helping the folks in Tennessee and Georgia and North Carolina. So they're coming from the other side of the country, 3,000 miles away, to Florida, because they know the power is going to go out. I mean, I hope the power stays on during this program for me, but already we have power outages in the area. So he suspended the tolls. People can drive on the shoulders when necessary. The shelters are open, and there's like a capacity for 200,000 people to be in local shelters. And I think this morning I heard somewhere between 30 and 50,000 people have taken up those offers. Other people stay with relatives or hotels. They come across the state, find a zone where you're not in the direct path of the storm. But having DeSantis in charge is like a beacon of hope. It's like a lighthouse when you're a ship in the storm, because he knows what he's doing. It's something that he's done many times before. Hurricanes are not new to Florida, as you know. If you live here, you just go through them, you get used to them. You have to make the decision to leave or not leave at any given time. And it's not an easy decision. You have to watch every single storm, because, I mean, you have to pack up. You have to find a place to live, have a plan in ready, take your insurance stuff with you. If you have pets, if you have medications, you need food. So it's not an easy process just to leave your place. This one I'm hunkering down in, because I think by the time it gets here, it's going to be probably a Category 1 hurricane, which is what, 74 to at least 74 mile an hour winds. But when it comes ashore, it's going to be Category 3 or Category 4, they're saying. So that could be a major hurricane for the West Coast. But having DeSantis in charge, it's just, it puts your mind at ease that these are the adults in the room. They're not the children who don't know what they're doing, who is known as Kamala Harris. And I think, Joe Biden getting on that, giving his update at the same time Kamala Harris was on The View is another stab in the back to her. I don't think he is like shoving it back in the Democrats' face because they forced him out of the presidential race. He wanted to run again. And he said, he's in this to win it. And then they pull the rug out from under him. And he immediately endorses the least capable person in America, not just in politics, the least capable person in America to be the Democratic nominee. No one ever voted for her. She had to drop out of the primaries last time before a single primary vote happened. Nobody likes her. Everyone realizes she's she's a few French fries short of a Happy Meal up there. So we're dealing with somebody who, if she does become commander-in-chief, we are in serious trouble.
Yeah, we are.
Everything you just said reminds me of what I was talking about a year ago. Because a year ago, when Ron DeSantis decided to run against Trump, I said, what a tragic mistake. And when he started bad-mouthing Trump, I said, because I'm the biggest Trump guy in the world, and I have been since the moment he came down the escalator. I'm a friend of Donald Trump. I've opened at many of his rallies. I've been the opening speaker. He's been my guest 16 times on my TV show, I think more than anyone in the United States of America, more than Hannity, more than Tucker, more than anyone. Him and I are good friends. I got married 2 years ago, and he gave me a honeymoon at Mar-a-Lago. So, I love Trump. But I always said DeSantis is the best governor in America, and maybe the best governor ever in the history of America. Everything he says and everything he does for the 3 years before the primary was fantastic. So why would you run against Trump when you are the perfect vice president for Trump? The ticket was supposed to be Trump and DeSantis. And then when Trump and DeSantis won, which they would have, DeSantis gets the next 8 years as president of the United States, and we get 12 years of conservatives in office running our country, turning it around. So DeSantis screwed all of that up by deciding he was better than Trump, and he could argue on a world stage that Trump is a dummy and Trump's no good and Trump's incompetent, Trump hurt us. And it was so silly because he was never going to beat Trump. Trump's the performer and the showman and the entertainer, and people love him, and he was never going to lose to DeSantis. So boy, did he screw the pooch on that one, because DeSantis was my favorite governor, and he should have been the VP. And I wrote columns saying, this is your VP, and this is your ticket. If the two men can get their egos out of the way, it should be Trump DeSantis, and we'll win a landslide victory. And I still feel terrible about it to this day, because that should have been what happened. And then I would be positive that after 4 years, DeSantis gets 8 years as president. So how sad, because I agree with you. He's a great governor. I just wish he'd never run for president. He was a crappy candidate for president, but what a great governor.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I think you're spot on there. Wayne, we know that rootforamerica.com is the place I think that everybody should go to first to kind of disseminate. You're across 50 radio stations across the country. You've got 6 or 7, 8 books, so many, so much.
Now that you say that, let me say, and part of
yes.
Book, number 17 is out, and it's, I've written 16 books that are 300 pages long each. This is a quick read, like in 1 minute. It's called How Democrats Have Made America Great, and it's 140 blank pages. It's my favorite book of all time. It took me like 30 seconds to write it. It'll take you 30 seconds to read it. It's easy and it's simple, and this is all the achievements of the Democrat Party, 140 blank pages. And so buy 10 copies and give it to every conservative in your life for Christmas, or give it to every liberal in your life to make their heads explode. How Democrats Have Made America Great by Wayne Allen Root at Amazon.com.
Fantastic. All right. And where can people follow you on X or Facebook? Like, where are you most prolific? Where do you want people to follow you?
I would just go to Root for America, my website. You find all 3 of my TV shows, my radio show, my podcast, and all my social media. It's all there. But any social media you go to, whether it's X, whether it's Truth Social, whether it's Frank Social, whether it's Getter, I'm at Real Wayne Root, at Real Wayne Root. I got a big mouth, and I tell like it is, and I tell raw truth, and I don't care who I offend. So it's a very entertaining series of posts every single day.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. We're so glad to have you. I can't wait to have you back. I'm glad you're hunkered down in Vegas and you don't have to worry about any of these fires and all this stuff. But we'll have you back really soon. Thank you so much.
And I wish the best to Joe. Please, I pray that everything's great for you in Florida and you're safe and your family's safe. It's very scary to hear what you're going through. I hope everyone in Florida makes that of this thing alive and well and a quick recovery. God bless you.
Thank you, Wayne. I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Right. Great. Joe, real quick, I just wanted to get your take on, before I let you go hunker down again, I wanted to get your take on this last clip here of David Axelrod. Now he was one of Obama's chief guys, and he kind of, I kind of understand what he's saying here, but let's disseminate it a little bit. Let's watch this clip.
Here's my question about North Carolina. You had these killer storms, which, by the way, was a third big story this week.
Yes,
These
another
storms. And there's a lot of displacement in western North Carolina. Now, Asheville is a blue dot in that area.
I was
going to
say,
Republican
Asheville's
voters there.
Yeah,
but those voters in Asheville are they're the kind of voters who will figure out a way to vote. They're upscale, kind of liberal voters, and they're probably going to figure out a way to vote. I'm not sure a bunch of these folks who've had their homes and lives destroyed elsewhere in western North Carolina in the mountains there are going to be as easy to wrangle for the Trump campaign. So that's I don't know how that's all going to play out, but it's an unpredictable element in North Carolina that has made it maybe a little more interesting.
Joe, I mean, we keep talking about how much Democrats hate real Americans, and there seems to be an ounce of caring in pounds of sort of elitism, talking about how the Democrats of Asheville, if they want to vote, they'll find a way. But these mountain folks, oh geez.
They're too stupid in the mountains, I think, is basically what he's trying to say, is that Republicans who aren't part of the liberal smart guys of Asheville, North Carolina, they just can't figure out how to vote. Now, by the way, there may be some difficulties for people voting just because bridges are out and roads are out, and hopefully that won't impact the election. But I mean, the elitism is just oozing out of Axelrod there. To suggest that, the college-educated folk of Asheville, they'll find a way to vote. Well, they find a way to vote even when they're dead, because they're Democrats. So it doesn't matter if they actually make it to the ballot box, because they always find a way to get their ballots in. The vote early and vote often and over and over kind of joke. Republicans are just as smart. Conservative people are the ones that keep this country going, Mr. Axelrod. So we can find a way. It's the liberals who don't. They have all these college degrees in whatever transgender studies that don't help when the power goes out and your cities and counties are destroyed by these storms. It's actually starting to rain here. With this train, with this hurricane track. Again, the storm isn't even supposed to hit the west side of Florida until tonight, but we're getting these outer bands. So we see sunshine and dryness, and then we see winds and rain for a while. So after the show, I'm going to put up my final hurricane shutters. I don't know if you want to see it, but I can show you what it's like right outside right now and what it's like to be inside a house that's boarded up. There's the last of my hurricane shutters on the patio.
All right.
This is what it looks like inside a house. It's darkness when you board up your house with hurricane shutters, and when you get the last one done, I mean, it's completely dark, and it gets especially dark if the power goes out. So, it's not something you ordinarily see is from the inside of a home that's boarded up. But I thought our folks might want to get a view of that, because
exclusive footage.
Yeah, exclusive footage, like right in the path, southern end of the cone, right here in Martin County, Florida. But we're not scared of these things. You get used to them living in a danger zone like this, and disasters can happen anywhere.
Well,
So, it's like there's like no safe place, despite what Wayne says.
Yeah,
there's no safe place anywhere.
And I want to show before you go, I'm holding you on here.
That's fine.
We have a clip here. I think we still have this clip. We have this clip of this. Now we've seen all the national news, and I'm not here to say that this storm isn't serious, because it is. But we've seen like national news people cry over the fact that this storm is headed towards Florida and headed towards the East Coast. But there's also the locals, like the people that have lived there and have gone through these storms, for decades now. I mean, since they've been alive. I mean, this is a hurricane alley, so to speak, right? We found a clip of a local news weather person kind of describing Hurricane Milton almost as if it was just a normal weather coming through. Let's watch this real quick.
Let's talk more about that surge that Jim was mentioning, because the National Hurricane Center is warning that destructive storm surge will occur along parts of Florida's west coast tomorrow, and that's where we find our surge warnings. They stretch from the Everglades to Cedar Key, but also notice the potential for surge on the east coast of Florida, including Georgia and South Carolina too. You will see surge outside the cone, but the highest is expected in Tampa and Sarasota. But look at that, Naples, we could get 4 to 7 feet there. Let's focus in on the Tampa Bay area, where we could see a record-setting surge over 9 feet. And I can use this simulation to show you what it will actually look like in.
Yeah, so that's one of the reporters that's kind of like, she's casually kind of going through the motions here, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it also kind of just shows that, like, you guys are somewhat used to dealing with this. I mean, you have things ready to board up, you know what you're doing, and so as we continue to pray for, that the storm, when it hits, is not as devastating as promised, there is this level of, you folks know what you're getting yourselves into by living there.
Right. And for people, a lot of people came to Florida during COVID because we were the freedom state, not one of these lockdown states with the lockdown queen in Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, and the northeastern states that locked down, run by Democrats. So we have a lot of new residents here, and this might be, their first year or two of experiencing hurricanes, and it might be culture shock to them. But, I've lived here since the early 1980s. So it's been, year after year, it's hurricane season, from June through November, it's hurricane season. And most of the storms come during September and October. And you just have to have that as part of your mentality, that you have to have supplies ready. You have to be able to be willing to leave if there is a life-threatening storm. And I know the mayor of Tampa was saying earlier this week, if you don't leave, you are going to die, and that sort of thing. And that, scares people, but sometimes they need to be scared. And again, many times the media and officials overhype the storm for whatever purpose, political purpose, ratings purpose. But when you know the storm is coming, you can have a plan. I lived through Hurricane Andrew back in 1992, and that thing made a beeline from Africa all the way across the Atlantic to Homestead, Florida, which is just south of Miami. So everybody knew it was coming, and Homestead was completely destroyed. I mean, there was just sticks on the ground after the storm ravaged the area, but not a single person died because they knew it was coming, and everybody got the heck out of Dodge, so to speak, and got out of harm's way. So you can survive these things. Florida is a great place to live. It's the Sunshine State, a lot to do here. We've got, the Kennedy Space Center, the theme parks, beaches everywhere. So it's a very popular retirement place, as you know, but there's just as many young people here as well. So it's a popular vacation destination. So there are a lot of great things about living here. But, on the downside, there are these catastrophic storms sometimes that come through, and you never know if they're going to come from the Atlantic side or from south of Cuba or from the Gulf. This one just popped up a couple of days ago in the Gulf of Mexico, and it surprised people, especially who were weary on the Gulf Coast from Helene and all the damage that did as it scraped up the west side of Florida on its way up into Georgia, Tennessee, and the Carolinas. So it's just a part of life that you have to be willing to put up with. In other parts of the country, they have tornadoes quite a bit. The Midwest is full of tornadoes all the time, but people live in the Midwest, and that's where all the crops grow. Those tornadoes are coming through here today. You probably see them over my shoulder here. Some bad weather coverage on the news here. Yes, this is actual tornadoes in South Florida here.
Yeah, this is extraordinary. I mean, we haven't had to play any B-roll because we've had your over the shoulder shot this whole time, but it's extraordinary to see how the weather that happened. I mean, I'm on the West Coast, and you deal with earthquakes and wildfires, but this is I mean, the pictures that are that
right.
That
Every one of those
up.
polygons that you're seeing on that weather map there is an area of tornado warning. I mean, we've had, I think, dozens by now, and the storm hasn't even hit. The storm is way out there, and it's not even going to come to our area, to the west coast of Florida for landfall until tonight. They're saying between 9 and midnight. So these are just outer bands, and it sparks these tornadoes. They've been circling Lake Okeechobee. I've never seen it do so many around the lake, like a circular formation right around Lake Okeechobee, which is a massive lake in the middle of South Florida here. You can actually see it from space on all the satellite shots. It's so big. But that's at the western end of Martin County here where I live. But it's just, again, this is part of the Florida lifestyle. If you're coming here, just be aware that we do get these storms, and you have to be just, ready and willing. Don't be afraid. We shouldn't fear anything, because when you're afraid, that's when you can't think straight and you get paralyzed. So, it's just normal part of life. Severe storms, severe weather, it can happen anytime, but especially the hurricane season is the summer months through November. So, I'm dealing with it, not afraid of it. I'm hunkering down to bear this one out, not leaving. I'm not in the direct immediate path, but I am on the southern end of the cone. So we are watching it. These storms change trajectory on a dime. They do the advisories every 3 hours from the Hurricane Center. So every little jiggle motion of the storm can send it to a completely different county, a different region of the state. So it's once the storms are coming, we're all like glued to our radios, television sets, internets, to make sure that we know the latest path.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Well, we're going to let you get hunkered down over there. Let everybody know where they can follow you and make sure they keep tabs on you through the next few days, the next 48 hours or so. What's the best place to follow you?
Well, besides worldnetdaily.com, WND.com, which is our main website where I put up the news, I do have an X page of my own, which is at Joe Kovacs News, at Joe Kovacs News. There it is on your screen. And we also have a WorldNet Daily page on X as well, which is at WorldNet Daily. So we don't just do hurricane news, just FYI. There's a ton of other stories that are on the page right now that we've been working on. A lot is happening in the Middle East. David Brummer there is our Jerusalem bureau chief. So there's a lot of political news as well with what's happening with the presidential race. So I just encourage everybody to go to the main website, worldnetdaily.com, or if you can't remember the name, WND.com. It's just 3 letters. But, we're all in this together, as they said during COVID famously. But it's the greatest news site that I've ever worked for. And I've run networks in radio. I ran this television station over my shoulder, the ABC affiliate here. And I've worked overseas in Europe. But this news site is the greatest news site I've ever worked for. And we don't have any, we're fearless in what we cover. And, we're not afraid to do what the government calls misinformation because it's actually truth. And we're here to spread the truth accurately as possible.
Yes, that is true, which means censorship is always at our doorstep. So be sure to follow us on Rumble. If you're watching on Rumble right now, we thank you for doing that. But please subscribe to WND Newsroom on Rumble. It's free. They also have a premium feature which gets rid of all the ads. But you can find us there and make sure you hit the follow button. We want to see those subscribers increase over there on Rumble. Also on Telegram, we have a Telegram channel. Make sure you're subscribed there if you're on Telegram, as well as Instagram. Our Instagram is blowing up, as the kids say. The follower count is increasing, and you'll see a little bit more of the pop culture stuff that's happening there, because that's just what Instagram's all about usually. So, Joe, thank you again here. I'm glad you're back in town. I'm glad you're back on the air with us. And I pray for your family. I pray for all of those in Florida who are going to get hit by Milton, and we hope to see you back on the program very, very, very soon.
Thank you, Matt. Always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, that's great. All right, folks, thank you again for watching, and prayers out for Florida. God bless you all. Take care.